Good morning, guys. Welcome to another Crypto EMC Trade for a Living podcast. Today, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin, this massive green-red candle that's sitting in there. We're going to put this in context of the entire move. And then we want to decide whether it's time to buy the dip, if now is the right time to buy the dip, and whether we need to start looking elsewhere for greener pastures. Okay, so what I said to you guys, let's then just do a recap of our last stream. What was the argument, or what did I say to you guys? Explain to you guys how this whole price action that happened in the 2021 all-time high was very much similar to what's happening now. Looks different, feels different, but it's always similar from a pure technical point of view. And I pointed out to you guys that there's, with the liquidation event that happened last week, Friday, and the one that happened last night, that there's one golden rule with any liquidation. And that is what happens with the candles afterwards. Okay, so I gave you two options or two versions of that. I said, well, there's the first option, option A, okay, the buy the dip, the time when we want to try and get in on a good deal. We wait for the candle that perceives, or my English needs to go up, the candle after the mass liquidation. If that closes above where the liquidation ended and price closed, again, you know, that crazy wick. If we close above it, like we did there, that red candle right there, if we do that, we can try and buy the dip. And the way that we do that is by typically smacking a 50% on that wick. And statistically, that would be the area or the sweet hard buy for more upside. Okay. Now, the alternative option that we had was, if we have a liquidation event, but we close below the closing of that liquidation event candle, we typically go and make lower lows. That's when we don't want to buy the dip. We have to wait for the dip to end up dipping. And then when it's ended, all it's dipping, then we can buy the dip. And where we're at right now, the message was then, because we've only had the liquidation at this stage, we still have to wait and see how this week closes before we can call it and say, okay, right, we're going to go 94, we're going to go 89, or whatever the case might be. The problem with this waiting is, obviously, you're already in cash. You should have taken profit. How do we go about taking profit? Well, I explained to you guys I'm selling at 125. I did. Okay, and I also said I might be the idiot of the century if I'm the guy selling and something clearly wants to go up top, but trade your game plan. The game plan always was to sell at 125 all the way down from when we were here at 18,000. And the reason for that was simple. When we have any strong divergence on the weekly time frame, we need to sit up straight and take that shit seriously. Okay, and the way that we do that is, yet again, by bringing in the RSI, which is then our friend, and we then wait for price to either reclaim or fall below the originating pivot of that divergence, meaning there we made a liquidation. I think this wasn't FTX. What was the second liquidation event? I can't even remember. Luna. It was Luna crashing. I think that was Luna. One of these were, come on, I need to go read up on my history again. So basically what needs to happen is, when that initial pivot gets created, we make a lower low. Okay, then we do the opposite with the RSI. That is our strong bullish divergence textbook style. And when and if price reclaims that, that's when you scream reversal. Okay, which means you remain bearish in this instance as long as price stayed below $20,000. So you can short each and every one of the tops, but once we go above it, you need to change your narrative, your mindset for the larger time frame outlook. The same was true at the highs. Okay, when the divergence starts kicking in, once you start falling below that pivot, you need to worry, and you'll find that you'll get divergences quite early. I mean, there was a divergence there. What did we do? We stayed above it. That was a buy the dip scenario. So looking at, or fast forwarding to where we are right within this year, we had a scenario where we created the divergence, and I explained that it's a bullish divergence because our pivot, this green line, was living right there. And as long as we were above that pivot, you remain bullish and you buy the dip. This is healthy retrace territory. And if we start, and this was our second pivot, we created another divergence. We started testing and chopping around this, and this has made me uncomfortable. Because what happened was, as soon as we open and close an entire candle below the pivot, the argument is that that level is lost. And we were hovering around that range, almost losing our support. And then we continued and created a new all-time high just the other day. And I explained to you guys that although I'm happy for the all-time high, there's a worry because you can clearly see with each new high, Bitcoin has significantly lost momentum. It's making higher highs, but it's making less profound higher highs for those holding it, and that's losing momentum. And the problem with when it loses momentum is that when you have a hell of a lot of momentum, the distance between the higher high and where that support lives are quite big. So there's room for retraces, big flushes in the market, and the narrative still remains bullish. But as soon as we have these low performing higher highs, once we fall below that pivot, there's no room for that big retrace. It's not a normal buy the dip anymore. This is a stay away from the dip because this is the beginning of what could potentially be the complacency wave for Bitcoin. Now, for those that are not sure what I mean by complacency, just another recap on that real quick. Complacency is near the end of a bull market. So you'll have nice big upside, euphoria, everybody holding Bitcoin thinks they're geniuses, and now you've got this complacency. So everybody's saying this just needs to cool off. Institutions are still buying. The news is still bullish. And in complacency, nothing fundamentally changes. Okay, so you can't use those things. You can only use technical analysis to identify complacency in the market structure. That's the biggest trick. Because a great coin will remain great at the height of every bull market and at the low of every bull market. It will remain great. Okay, so now that we have that whole background information in mind, you now can understand this chart in greater detail. It might be messy, it might look cluttered, but it actually paints a beautiful picture of where we are right now. Okay, so the weekly. Do we want to buy the dip just yet? Hells no, because what we have now is we rejected actually at 115, and we're about to fill that wick and some, which means our targets for where Bitcoin is going to find a floor has to shift. Okay, and now let's have a look at those targets real quick. Before I do that, let's head over to the comments. Let's quickly see who we've got live with us today on the stream. So we've got Altec, Skulk, Matty, Liesel, Jerry, all the regulars, Renee, Stanku. Thanks for joining in, guys. Thanks for saying hi. If you're new to the channel, say hi. I'd love to meet you. And just for the hell of it, let's all just throw ourselves at 777 because we're going to get it right. You know, it's as simple as that. If you stick at it long enough, you're going to get it right. Okay, so just a friendly reminder, guys, content is brought to you by Prime XBT. If you want to support the content, you want to trade with me live in the Discord, you need to have a Prime XBT account. The trades we're going to be sharing in the Discord, we're going to start trading some metals and so forth. Those are still performing well as well. So Prime is your gateway to that. So make sure you have a Prime XBT account. Okay. Now, let's then have a look at these targets. So the chart that we're going to need to have or need to use for these specific targets would be your point and figure chart. Now, the point and figure chart gives us areas where the volatility was very high. And when you have high volatility, there's normally people with additional large players with additional orders waiting to add in on their positions. And so the way that this prints is very simple. If you look at this, you'll see that when you have these giant gaps, those gaps need to get filled. And those areas are where Bitcoin is heading to right now. So the point and figure chart is not a roadmap telling you what's next, but a destination map telling you where it could go to. And then it's up to you to use momentum and all those things to kind of define where the areas are. So as, let's say, as a little bit of a grace or hope, there is gaps still at 118. And just because things are looking horrendous on the weekly for Bitcoin right now, does not mean that we could do this, go and test there, and then reject further to create what would be your typical head and shoulders kind of pattern. So larger time frame, maybe end of December, maybe as additional trap, we could still see price back at 180. But here's the catch. Unless the dominance starts turning in favor of your alts, that will not put you at break-even levels at any stage with any of the coins that were or give you the same price of any alt that you're holding, that what it's giving right now at 118 or what it did at 118, because they will potentially go much lower and have less of a demand or need to go and drive back up to these highs. Okay. We also pointed out that the alts just doesn't want to work at this stage for us. And the reason is that the dominance is still a bullish trending indicator. And although we had that imbalance, what's the rule? I just said, if we create a crazy wick and the dominance closes this week above the closing price, so it's that same analysis just now on the dominance side. I'll just make the line purple for you. If this closes as it is, Bitcoin below support, dominance above that support, what does it mean? It means that you're also just going to bleed like hell again, because this is going to want to close this wick and fill it, go even higher still. That's bad for alts, okay? So now you have the whole spiel all summed up in a nice little packet for you to go and have a look at your own alts and know what to look for come Sunday, because the weekly closes in 2 days and 16 hours left. So that's what you need to do. And once that is there and these candles do close like they are, then you know you need to start acting. Whatever you have, you've now let them run for as long as they can. What they've given you is what they have. And then from that point onwards, you need to start getting out of the market with those positions, or else you're just going to ride the ship down. Okay. So that's the whole story. Everybody on the same page. Let's quickly head over to the comments again. Everybody on the same page. Let me know. Give me not another 777. Give me a 555. Let's just say 555. 555. That's it. I'm going to take a sip of water, and then we're going to look at some on-chain data. Okay, so give me a sec. Here's a comment coming through. Peter, will you bring that one up? Thoughts on Bitcoin resetting the weekly RSI at 30 level and give a huge bounce? Now, hopium is one thing I don't try and sell on this channel. But I'll bite and I'll take the argument for you. Okay, so now you're talking about Bitcoin on the weekly resetting an RSI. So let's bring in the RSI real quick. So if we have an RSI going to 30, what will that mean then for Bitcoin? It will then mean that we have to stay above 80. And if we do that, we could argue hidden bullish divergence and then buy that dip. So I'm just going to switch to a cleaner screen because there's a lot going on the screen. So you can see what I mean. Now, divergence works as follows. You want the lower low, the RSI, but you want a higher low in price. So typically you're going to say, well, let's keep momentum and say to ourselves, if that is what you want to see, you want to see that RSI go lower, would be a good sign, would be a bullish sign, but we cannot fall below 70 or 80. And this then brings in a couple of interesting targets, because if we look to our point and figure chart, those are the areas where there's a lot of gaps, 99 to 97, and yet 90 again. And that kind of just bothers me at the back of my head. Because if I mark that out on the chart, it's that zone. And one can argue that that's an imbalance. Because what happened was, just like we did there, price moved too quickly. So what's going to happen is the market needs to recycle. Price moved too quickly, the market needs to recycle. So what do I mean by recycle? The The big players, when they market execute themselves into positions, buy up Bitcoin to absorb the supply so that the order book is thin, so that the retail, the little buyer, can actually move the price on. Okay, when they do that, they'll start selling once the volume becomes big enough and strong enough so that they can put their limit order on the next thing. That's the only way that you can manipulate long-term price up. So let's say we want to be conspiracy theorists, and we say that large institutions are buying Bitcoin, stacking Bitcoin, holding Bitcoin for the opportunity to actually manipulate price up and indirectly create wealth for themselves, because wealth, that money is in the air. I mean, I can make you a millionaire by selling you one Bitcoin at $1 and then selling the next Bitcoin at $1 million. Inherently, your $1 has inherited all that other value. All of a sudden, you have $1 million, and that's how they do that. Okay, so first, I need to have all the Bitcoin, and then I can do that. It doesn't work if I don't have all the, the majority of the supply. So that's how they do that. They mark price up for us. It steps up on these levels. Okay. Now, the only problem that I have is when we get there, if we take our time to get there, we would have broke trend. And this then locks us into that argument. And that still means that we can go 120, 118, whatever the case might be. But now we've broke trend. And having that RSI reset breaking trend now would mean that the amount of time that needs to go by, remember, this is weekly time frame, is a lot. So that maybe sets us up in for another 4 years from now before that really happens, which for me personally, and it's maybe a little early to say this just yet, but between 76 and 89 is where my bear market low for Bitcoin call is. Meaning I want to buy my Bitcoin back there. I don't feel we're going to go 50. We're not going to go 45, 30. Time for those prices is gone. Okay. Just like we were saying in the beginning when we had 15,000 guys were saying, Bitcoin 250, 300, it doesn't make sense that it goes and grows at that exceptional rate anymore. And the same now is going to happen for the bear markets or the lows. It's not going to dump that crazy anymore. You're going to have 30% dumps. You can use gold as a really good example. And that then puts that whole thing into perspective. Okay, so over to your comments. Let's quickly see, and then we can move on what we have. So 118 is out. Is out swing short 240. Got it. No, Matty. Things can go way wrong before we hit any of those targets. So I hope that I've given you enough info so you can kind of see where we are. Bigger picture around us. Okay. Now, weekly timeframes, having these if, when, and but decisions and discussions are nice. Okay. It gives you a good idea. But when we zoom in, we can have a more informed decision on what to do this week. And I think that is what we all want to do. What could happen this week? So I'm going to go to the 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, and let's then have a look. So this was where we were this week, the recap line. And yet again, you can see the problem that I had on the 4-hour. We already closed below the wick, which means that price will probably fill this week and some. So the 105 area where I think the buy would have been for this 108, 110 was on the basis that we stay above that, and we're not there. So any of these bounces that you're going to find is going to be this kind of bull trap scenario, gets the retail bulls involved, pushes price up, rejects at the resistance, and then sells lower. So your play as a trader for now is to do the following. Don't try and time the bottom. Try and time the top. You'll do better. Okay, and let me explain how. When you have something trending bearish, just like the RSI, for bullish theory needs to go and make a lower low, like I just explained on the weekly, the same will happen for the RSI on a higher high. And typically, when the RSI is trending within this range, we would say it's bullish. When the RSI is trending within this range, we would say it's bearish. And every time the RSI shoots into these levels, that would be that flush, that bull trap that we have, or that bear trap Depends on the direction it is. And you can see this clearly because anytime the RSI is trending on the bullish side of things, you'll build a bullish base. Okay? And every time the RSI was trending on the bearish side of things, it goes down. It's simple as that. And these highs, these spikes out of the range, makes for amazing short opportunities. Okay. So what we have right now is the same bearish trend that formed right there. And what you're looking for now is spikes. You're looking for the RSI to go there, and spike there. And that would be your sweetheart short. So you can use this to grab some shorts. Now, I'm still stuck on Prime with a stupid long that I need to live with, okay? And I need to get out. And I'm still holding my short from way, way, way back. So at the moment, the short's in profit and the long's in drawdown. And I'm going to use this time. Oh, this is zinc. This is not zinc. This is not the BTC chart. Let me just load the BTC chart here real quick. Give me a sec, guys, so you can see what I mean by that. So there you go. So I was trying to grab a long for this move, and I didn't take profit on this. Remember, I had all those BTC longs. This is still one I'm still holding, hoping for higher targets. Okay, so I'm still stuck with that one. And then obviously I still have the short. So I need to make some decisions because we're trending strong. What can happen is these highs that's going to form now, I'm going to use them to get out of my long, and I'm going to add to the short. So the short, which is in profit now, will probably go and draw down again. It's fine. I'm patient. But then I'm going to add on to that and build my trade in that direction. Okay. And that's basically the game plan for this. So not to try and time the bottoms, not to try and time buying the dip, but trying to look for this, that RSI going higher and price not. And the tool that I will use in most cases would be my fib level. And I will use my strat 4 fib, which would means that statistically 118 becomes less plausible, and where we're at right now, 111 becomes more plausible as where the bull trap will be. So it will pump up to 111, get your asses out, sell the market, and try and hit that lower low. Okay, if it does that today, I doubt that we're going to have in one day, especially the way the market is right now. 5% is probably not that bad. It's possible. It goes up 7% from where it's at right now, turns around and wrecks a lot of people. Okay. Now, other stuff that I have to kind of substantiate or to support this is we can have a look at this chart. I'm going to bring this one over real quick. Okay. And when we look at the futures market, we've got very few retail activity at the moment, which then bodes well for buying the dip if you want to try and scalp this thing long. Because if the bus is empty, it will typically move to the upside. Okay. And this could give us this little push that I'm expecting in order for us to get the large short that we want. Okay. Also, what we have, if I bring this chart over real quick, is that we had a negative funding rate. Now, we know when the funding rate turns negative, typically that is when the market is, at the point where there's so little bulls in the market, they have to incentivize people to go long, and they're actually charging the bears this time around to go short. Okay, so the whole sentiment is flipped. So with that being said, where we're at right now, we're moving into that zone where we want to test that. So shorter term, it just supports the argument that there is a little bit of a bullishness happening that's going to drive price into where our short needs to be. Okay, and basically, let me just move these charts back. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my train of thought. Let's just do this and do this. There we go. Give me a sec. Come on, but chart. Work with me. Work with me. Okay. Right. And that means that if we go into smaller time frames, you're going to find that you're going to start getting your divergences. So this is Bitcoin on the 15-minute. Let me just clean up all this mess. And now you're talking about the weekly 30 reset on the RSI. I think it was, who was it that gave that question? Anant. Okay. Here you can see it clearly happening on the 15-minute. Now what needs to happen, though, is this 15 minutes should either get a V reversal and engulf this whole structure, or alternatively, make yet again another lower low, now with divergence. And it needs to be a very flat lower low, not a lower low like this, because we need price to be able to regain that support level for it to push back to the upside. And only under those conditions will I look to try and long Bitcoin again. Okay. Now, guys, my Bitcoin trading for the last week has been horrible. Okay. The reason being simple. I wanted to short Bitcoin there, and it just took my stop and then sold off. Frustrating. I wanted to long Bitcoin at 111. It took my stop and then went up again. And the same happened right there. I wanted to short at 130, but this time round, my position got liquidated. I screwed up the settings on Blowfin, okay, which means I'm back trading Bitcoin on Prime. Okay, I'll trade the small little alts on Blowfin. That works, but the big stuff, I don't want to have that hassle. I don't want to have the exchange decide how my risk needs to be done. It's on me. Okay, so I'm back on Prime trading there. Okay, so I missed out of this entire move for BTC as well. So frustratingly so. And now I'm sitting on my hands because I'm waiting for this to play out to go long so that I can get that nice short on Prime. Okay, so now you have all the levels. You have the playbook. You know what to wait for. I mean, I cannot fast forward the chart candles to give you the areas right now, but you're well informed. You know what to do. And in doing so, give me a 999 in the comments so that we know we're on the same page. Then I'll look at some questions and then we'll recap the alts, because yesterday's alt we traded live in the Discord did this. Let's scroll down. Come on, scroll down. Yesterday's alt did this. We bought it there and it went up 87% in a day. Okay, so we're going to look at that. So over to the comments real quickly. Let's quickly see what we've got here. Jerry says, please chart USDT dominance. Let's see what else we have. BTC daily bullish megaphone pattern. Okay, might be the case. Okay, so let's look at the USDT dominance real quick. Now, there's another way to look at this. Or another way to look at the USDT dominance is also look at the Dixie, because they inversely correlated. You know, one goes up, the other goes down. But they're not. It's not a powerful thing. It's more of a sentiment indicator for everybody. And the USDT was trading down, which meant that we could be bullish, because as less and less people are interested in the USDT, it means that they are spending the money buying. That's a good sign. But if USDT starts trending up again, it means that market share is moving back to stable and people are getting uncertain. So USDT going up is yet again bad, but it's a supportive indicator. It just tells you the obvious. Market selling down, USDT will go up. It's simple as that. But now you can try and use this as a confluential indicator to try and see whether you are shorting at the right time. So what would be a good time to short Bitcoin when we look at the USDT dominance as a sense? You want to have a bearish sell signal on the USDT, and that would typically then tell you that people are going to want to a bullish signal on the USDT, because then it tells you people are going to want to flood back to USDT. Okay, and that means get out of their positions. Okay, and that's normally a good sign for us. Okay, so where we're at right now, this thing is trending bearish. So we were bullish up till now. We need to break this trend and start becoming bullish again, so that then the largest short will come in play, because now everybody is running away and running back to stable. If we rejected this area, the flush is over and we're going to move down lower still. That's it. That's the only two things that we need to kind of think of. And if you look at where the RSI is for this on the weekly at this stage, you've got a very high RSI, you've got a higher high there, and you've got a high there. And this is kind of where the trend is at. So with this being said, if this thing flushes down a little bit more, move up a little bit more, and we do get that, that would be a great bullish signal. But I don't see it. We're almost at that point. We're about to overtake this point, which means that we're just going to have harmony. So the bear play makes more sense than the bull play, large time frame, from the USDT. I hope I try and make sense, because you constantly need to inverse think around, lows are bullish here, lows are bearish here, tops are bullish here, and. So if I maybe squeeze the thing around, bear with me, guys, okay? And the main reason I'm still supporting all my crazy is it's just this chart. It's a simple, it's elegant, it gets to the point, and it tells you about cycles, okay? Simple. Between the halving cycles, statistically, 38.2 is where we top, 618 is where we bottom, and we've reached the 38.2. It's simple, and now we're selling off. We're between halvings. This is the projection where the next halving is going to happen. 38 in, we're at the top, probably going to go to these levels for the bottom, and that's it. Simple as that. Okay. Now, a megaphone pattern. I don't know the ins and outs regarding a megaphone pattern for Bitcoin on the daily, Louis. Sorry about that, but I would assume a megaphone pattern would be, let's go to Bitcoin. This is now me making some crazy assumptions here, guys. Okay. Let's go to the daily time frame and zoom out and see if we can get this. Okay, so this would be your handle, this and that. And the argument is that that's going to happen, correct? And patterns like these can be very powerful. They really can, because they sum up what typically will happen in the market structure without you needing to study divergences and. But it comes with a big measure of luck that you need to have. You need to either identify the pattern and have the same narrative, because if you got the wrong narrative for the pattern, you could be trading the triple top, and you could say, well, this is a triangle and this is the play. And there's many ways to interpret these things. So that's why I can see the validity of the patterns. I'm not blind to it. I reference them many times as well. But I just don't try and put my sentiment analysis on that for that reason, okay? Because the pattern is a lot of the times what you want to see because of the narrative that you have. Whereas if you just focus on the support and the momentum to create a narrative and then look for a pattern to support that, which is might be what you've done, that's it there. I don't know what the breakout values of this is, because typically if you have a pennant, I don't know what you call it, I think this is what they call a pennant, okay? 65 to 68% over 1,000 patterns tested, they'll break out in favor of the move that created them. And then there's different patterns. You can see it there as well. There was another, I think another pennant or flag. Some people call it a flag. 65% in favor. Now you've got head and shoulders. What if we've got a shoulder? This is now the head. Guys would argue like that. Then we go down, we make the other shoulder. That's the reversal pattern. And all that is a strong bullish divergence followed by harmony, hidden bearish divergence. Okay, so price cannot make a high, but the RSI does make a high. So just on that, I just wanted to add on to that. Okay, Max Pain. I don't have a Max Pain chart open. I need to find my Max Pain chart because that would have made for an interesting talking point discussing the Max Pain. So, Kevin, I will make sure to get that for the next time round. Okay. Comments. Let's see what else we have. SNX short. Okay. Let's go to the alts. Let's go and have a look at the alts because there's not money to be made there. Okay. So, the first things first now. The beginning of the week, we were talking about BNB ecosystem. BNB pushed all-time highs. And we looked at a couple of coins that were really bullish. And I shared all the coins that we discussed on the YouTube and mine in the list in the Discord. Okay. And if you have your Prime XBT account with my link, you have access to that. It's as simple as that. Okay. You will find that in the Discord. The way that it looks is if you get the role that assigns with it, you just need to claim it. Okay. You get the role. Let me just quickly scroll to it. Prime XBT role gets assigned. You get part of the spot group. You get the watch lists, all this. Just by opening an account, claiming your role. It's as simple as that. Then you could get in on the trades, as we call them. Okay. There we were looking for the entry. Okay. Wait for it to get to the entry and so forth and so forth. And you can actually trade live with me. So it's as simple as that. Okay. To the point I was trying to make. Now I've lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the watch list. All those things are there. Okay, in the Discord for you. Easy to get to. Okay. And the Discord has been made easy. I created the navigation channel with these buttons. So you can just follow the buttons. If you want to get to the exchange links real quick, you can go back to navigation. And the same on your phone. It just makes it easier than scrolling a sea of channels to the left, looking for something. So it's made simple. Okay. That's basically that. And if you want to join the private group, guys, looks a little bit different. It's got a lot more going for it. If you want to join that, you're more than welcome to do so. That's got a lot more info. That's got my private trades and so forth, and the private trade community with the guides, the market tactics videos I do in the mornings, where we analyze the coins, we go through them before we start trading them, so you're on the same page. We do portfolio management. We look at the coins. There's the shell sheet where we look at all the different KOLs, what they're sharing, what we need to be looking at, and so forth. You want to be part of that. Also, all you need to do is just upgrade your access in the Discord. It's as simple as that. Click on that little button. There's many ways to do that. Okay. Right. Back to altcoins. Show some love, frenemies. Hit that like, subscribe, share the content with the video with a friend. 500 people joining in live today. There's definitely a lot of attention. People are looking for some calls. So the coins that I've got my eyes on. Let's look at coins I do have my eyes on, because we've now spent a lot of time looking at. KGEN was really big. It was brought to me yesterday by friends of mine, Dr. Crypto Alpha, Dr. Alpha Crypto, and a few other guys. And as you can see, we do have the daily on this. Not that nice. Okay. I wanted to see this thing close above it in order for me to say $1.20. But there's still potential for a little bit of upside, because there's another liquidation from yesterday's move. And if today closes above this level at 38 cents, we would potentially fill this wick, which means there's a double your money. Okay, there's the weekly analysis. We can dive this onto the 4-hour time frame and get a smaller play on this. And you can see that the 4-hour, we closed below it. So the odds that that's going to happen on the daily is probably bad. So maybe this one, if I have to be honest with where we're at right now, is a really good short coin. Just not there yet. So just keep an eye on that. But there's a coin that I wanted to bring to your attention, and it is this one. Okay, so we've got, let me just scroll back up my list. This one, AAVE. Now, looking at AAVE and looking at what is happening with the amount of TVL getting locked, Ethereum still being the leader of the TVL, sitting at around 84 billion. I can probably bring this over for you guys. You can have a look at it there. There you go. 84 billion for Ethereum. AAVE is sitting second and Lido is sitting third. And I want to have a look at those two with you guys, because there is maybe something happening there. Okay. So thanks, Peter, for just switching that over there for me. So let's have a look at this. So we're going to start off with AAVE. And the reason I'm bullish on AAVE is you can clearly see what happened with the liquidation event over the last week, okay? We started trading above it immediately. So statistically, AAVE is a really good area for a bounce buy, a buy the dip buy. Now, the macro for Bitcoin does have impacts on this larger time frame, but we're looking at this 4-hour now. So it could be for a week or so that there will be a good exit liquidity or exit pump there. Okay, so AAVE at $150 could potentially be the sweetheart buy that could see this thing catapult up again back to around $300. Why $300? Because that's the critical area where support was lost. And this now is going to be resistance. So let me just click on the line. Sorry, guys. Click on the line. That's resistance. Okay, so that's the play for me for AAVE. And this move here is a 74% if it does play out on spot. If you take that on a 10x trade, that's 700%. That is a good change your bull market rally or trade if ever there was one. Okay. The alternative coin that I've got to this is called Lido. Okay, and I loaded it just over here, or LDO is the ticker name for that. And you can see it did exactly or nearest the same, okay, with that TVL lock. So the hope is that between the two of them, I mean, we didn't quite open and close there, but it's nearest for me. We're sitting in that same 52-cent area, and we could drive this thing back to $1. And it's that same hope. This flush gets us there and there. So keep an eye out for these two coins, because there's some easy money to be had there, purely just for that reason. Okay. Then there was another coin that I wanted to bring to your attention. And it is, let me just get my notes. This is now the wrong one. Where's it going? Okay, let's see. It was on this list. Sorry, guys, I just need to find it. As we know, I do these things live. I scan. I don't try and look. To RLC is the one, and the other one was let's just get on this one and we'll have it. Okay, almost there. While that one is loading, let's quickly have a look at STG. There we go. Okay, so first one, RLC. Okay, so I'm looking at this one on a spot point of view. Okay. We had our liquidation. We're at this area here, but I want to zoom out to the weekly time frame for you guys. Just show you this. So what we have now is we've got our launch lows sitting right there. Launch lows, holding support. And we're about to now drive into this zone here. And this means that this could potentially start setting us up for a nice buy back to these levels at 2.7 at a later stage. Okay. Volume at this thing is currently going quite up. It's so high. It's one of the top volume leaders for the last hour. So there could be a little bit of front running in this area. A little bit of a buying the dip. That higher high in the RSI price kind of falling below that low area is giving us that weak bullish or even a strong bullish divergence. And the funny thing is, when we had the mass liquidations we're looking at, this thing didn't liquidate that hard. So there's definite strength and there's something there. Just have that feeling that this is going to be our next bass or something like that. We can drive this back to maybe even $1.50 from a short-term trade. So keep an eye on this one for over the weekend. Okay, it's getting ripe for a nice run. And now I need to look again for where's the other one. It was where it was. What's the name of it? Oh, come on. It's gonna load. It's gonna load now. STG. There we go. STG. And you can see in a similar way, no major liquidations on the weekly. Okay, it's showing some strength. The volume and the open interest on this is up 40% for today. Okay, so there's a definite something boiling there. Okay, RSI is making a considerable higher high, although price is in that lower low area, and this one is in that quiet range. So if you look at the trading range from the trend scope indicator, you zoom in. Look at how that Bollinger Band is pinching price. We know when it's pinching, that's normally when your explosive moves happen. So I won't be surprised if these two coins will be the next big ones from next week, similar to how BAS was and the other ones. You know, probably need to go to a 4-hour time frame. Once that RSI, that Bollinger starts getting pinched, okay, sitting right there, getting pinched, that's when the big move happens. And the markup occurs. So I do have my eyes on those two. So there you have it. Okay, so go and have a look at that. Guys, it's 44 minutes in. We've spent a lot of time. I probably spoke too much Bitcoin and not enough altcoins, but the conversation will be continued on going further in the Discord. Make sure to join next week, Monday. I'll have 2 trading guests for you guys. One that has a unique mathematical way of calculating tops and bottoms on entries and accumulation on coins. But I'm quite interested to find out how it works. So make sure to join in. And then another regular that we used to have, Val, is going to be here as well, with her way of looking at the weekly, the yearly, the monthly closes for Bitcoin. Because what makes for an interesting discussion is the fact that, you know what made more money than Bitcoin this year? Cows. Live cattle has performed better. Beef has performed better than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's currently sitting at 11% for the year. Okay. While all this is going bad, at least orange juice has gone cheaper for us. Okay. So drink OJ from now on while Bitcoin kind of figures out what it wants to do. And in the private group, we're going to be looking at palladium, platinum, silver, gold, because there's still a lot of juice to be had there. Copper is slowly moving up the list as well. So we want to be looking at the metals because there's something boiling there. We might be a little late to some of them, but the charts do suggest that there's a little bit more there. Okay, so I'm going to end off on that. And then, yeah, so your breakfast, oats has gone cheaper. Sugar and wheat, all those things have gone cheaper. But live hogs and cattle performed better than Bitcoin this year. Okay, so there you have it. Have a nice weekend, guys. Thanks for joining in. Share the content, remember, as always, and I'll be back come Monday. Cheers, everybody.